Welcome to Vikendi on the PlayStation 4. This is the full release that came out yesterday on the 22nd of January 2019. And in today's video I'm going to talk you through a complete chicken dinner from start to finish, and my thoughts on Vikendi, tactics, strategies, that sort of stuff, and PUBG in general. So first off, I would always recommend do the D23 strategy, sort of. This is a variation on D23, which basically means pick somewhere on the map that's a long way away from the flight path that doesn't have a name, and then do a long drop to there as far as you can. You should be able to fly to almost anywhere on the map with the parachute, but if you don't get there, as long as you fly for a bit and then open your parachute, you know, with about a third of the way to go, pretty much you're guaranteed that nobody else is gonna be there. But use the top shoulder button to lock the camera and have a look around just to make sure nobody's there. So Vikendi, a 6x6 kilometer map, sits very nicely in the series of maps we've got, with Erangel being the kind of the standard battle royale map, Miramar giving you that longer experience in the desert, in the mountains, in the cities, Sanhok being the incredibly hectic, very small jungle map, you know, where you're getting into firefights all the time. And what they've done with Vikendi is that it's a fair-sized map, it's a good-sized map. It has lots and lots of buildings in with loot, but doesn't have the same loot level that somewhere like Sanhok has. It's a bit, I'd say, it's similar to Erangel. The mix of loot at the moment is, you could say, is a little bit questionable. Tend to find lots of submachine guns, lots of umps, Tommy guns and Uzis. You find M16s, M416s, G36s, Scorpions, you know, the replacement sort of fully automatic pistol like a mini Uzi. And you'll find the occasional snipers, Kar98s, M24s, but you don't find that many DMRs, which is strange. Not many Mini 14s, SKSs or SLRs, or I haven't found them anyway. More smoke grenades. There's meant to be more level 3 helmets and level 3 vests. I found plenty of level 3 vests, but I haven't, to be honest, in all the games I've played so far on this new version, when it came to the main game, I haven't really found any level 3 helmets. And that's interesting because obviously the level 3 helmet is the antidote to bolt action one-shot kill sniper rifles like the Kar98 or the M24 or the AWM from the supply drops. Because unless you're wearing a level 3 helmet, if you get hit in the head by one of those rifles, you're dead. You know, it's instant knock, it's instant kill in solos, instant knock in duos and squads. And by having level 3 helmets in the game, that means you can't get those instant knocks with those guns. And the remedy, if you like, the counter to level 3 helmets and level 3 vests is really the DMRs, the Mini 14, the SKS, and the SLR. The weapons that can do lots of damage, fire semi-automatically, but where you can hit somebody twice in the head, you know, or 3 times in the head, and kill them with an SLR or an SKS. Where you couldn't really do that with Kar98 or an M24 because the sheer reload speed is too slow, and the person would be able to get out of the way or start jigging around too often. So that's interesting. But back to my strategy for Vikendi. So what I do is I tend to jump far. The first circle on Vikendi at the moment is very small. It's more like the second circle on Erangel, which can often mean that you can be out of position. But don't panic, because although you have the standard sort of time before the blue starts coming in, when the blue does start coming in, it does come in a little bit slower than you'll find on the other maps. And there also are plenty of vehicles on the roads. So if you run along the roads, eventually you'll come across a snowmobile or a UAZ or a Dacia or something like that. And that's basically what I'm doing at the moment. As you can see, I've got my level 2 helmet, got my level 2 vest, got a 4 and 6 on my back, got a got an Uzi as my close range weapon, but I'll be looking to change up a few of these things. Don't really want the Uzi as my close range weapon, although it is very, very good. my ideal setup is normally something like an assault rifle as my close range weapon with a red dot, something like the M416, and then a DMR as sniper rifle as my long range, so like a Kar98 or an M24 or a VSS or an SKS or a Mini 14 or an SLR. But I'm more than flexible enough to run something like an SMG, specifically the UMP as my close range weapon with the red dot on, and then my long range weapon being an assault rifle like the M416 I've got. I think what happens in this game is I don't find any more 5.56 ammo for the 416, so I end up changing, I think, for the Beryl or the Mutant, because I come across one of those guns with a load of, I think it's the Beryl, yeah, with a load of 7.6 bullets with it, so I make the decision there. So anyway, so back to tactics and strategies. So I've jumped far, I'm looting on my way, I'm running along this road, I'm aware that the blue's about to come in about 20 seconds. And then my plan then is to get to the quiet side of the circle. Now, depending on where that circle is, that can be very differently, but generally it's the side that's closest to the coast. Because I'm a very much, I'm not a hot dropper. I drop cold, and then I try and thread the eye of the needle to kind of make my way through the game, through the environment, to get to the final circles, you know, where there's only like 10 people left, without really engaging anybody. And if you've searched through my videos on YouTube, or if you watch any of them, you'll know that I've done some number theory on PUBG as well. Well, very simple theory about probability and winning at PUBG. And the way I think that the best way to understand sort of my approach to the game, my dogma when it comes to the game, if you like, my ideology, is that every time you get into a gunfight, if you're of equal skill and you've got roughly equal kit to two people, and you both see each other at similar times, you've got a 50-50 chance of winning, haven't you? So you might win that once. If you then get into another firefight, you've got a 50-50 chance of winning again. And then another one, you've got a 50-50 chance of winning. But if you then add up the probability of winning all the three of those gunfights, it's not very high. And so if you want to get into the top 10s, the end games of PUBG, I think it's very important to avoid gunfights where you don't completely have the advantage. And this is where you do these movements where you get onto the quiet side of the circle and you listen out, and you're very, very careful, because you always want to be in a gunfight where you see the other person first and then you take them out, rather than when you're hot dropping, say, into a town, and you're running around and you're bumping into people and getting into submachine gun fights, shotgun fights and other stuff. And the other side of it as well is the technical side for PUBG, especially on console, is that in the early game, when there's lots of players on the server, gunfights can be very janky indeed, and they, whether your hits register on the other player or not, isn't always down to your skill. It can sometimes be down to ping, down to latency, down to lag, and often you can lose early game gunfights, and it can feel very unfair. So that's another reason to avoid them. Now, I do recommend you drop hot fairly once in a while, just to get the practice of gunfights. Now we have the training mode and the training area that you can go into, and you can practice shooting at dummies or other players. I'd recommend do that as well, but do drop hot every now and again. On the likes of Erangel, drop Picardo, drop School, just to get the feel of it, and to get used to getting into gunfights. I mean, I've put 1,000 hours into PUBG, so I'm not an expert at gunfights, but I'm okay. I'd say I'm average. If I've got an advantage, I'll probably win the gunfight. Otherwise, it's a 50-50 with certain people. So what I've done now is I've found my snowmobile, and I'm heading south with the idea of crossing the river somewhere near the southern coast to move round to get towards that quiet side of the circle where there'll be less people, where I'll have less chance of bumping into people, so I can carefully make my way in. Now, be very careful with the snowmobile, especially on Vikendi, because it's very easy to come across cliffs and rocks where you'll hit it and then blow up and die. or flip it and damage yourself. You also don't have, well, you don't have any protections at all, so when you're running it along the roads or non-snowy areas and the snowmobile slows down, you become very vulnerable that way too. So as you see, I'm coming on. I'm going to turn left in a second, go across the river. On Vikendi as well, in the northern part of the map, the more snowy part of the map, remember that the river is frozen, and so you can just drive straight across it. You don't need to worry about using the bridges, and normally you would kind of avoid bridges because they're great places for campers to hang around, to block with the vehicle and then take you out. But what you'll see now is I'll get across the bridge and I'll sort of head south west, moving towards that quieter side of the circle. Excuse me while I just take a sip of coffee. And kind of going back to my whole ethos, my whole ideology about PUBG, especially solos, because I tend to play a lot of solos. For me, it's all about playing conservatively to get into the top 10. You always want to be trying to get into the top 10, and the reason for this is that there are many random events that happen in PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds that you don't have any control over at all. You know, where do your enemies drop? Where does the circle form? What weapons do other players have? Where are vehicles and things like that? And in order to win a game of PUBG, often you have to have some random things fall in your favour. That can help an awful lot. Specifically, when the circle falls in your favour. So what I mean by that is when you're in the last few circles, you know, you'll be in a circle and you'll be like, I'm on the edge of the circle, playing the edge, right, cool, I'm in a safe position. And then the next circle will be right over the other side with a load of open ground to cover, that you've got to cover. And you'll be like, oh, God. Because you know you're going to have to run through open ground, and it doesn't matter how many smoke grenades you pop down, you're probably going to get shot, and that's generally what happens. However, if the circle's in your favour and it comes over to your side of the circle, so you don't really have to move very far, and other people are having to come to you, then that gives you a better chance of winning. But you have no control over that, because it's totally random. You don't know when you get to a certain circle where the next circle's going to be. Now, sure, you can mitigate the risk by playing the centre, which lots of people do, so they'll go to the centre of the circle because then they know they can always make it to the next one. But that has the added danger of you getting into lots of gunfights, which means, you know, chances are, you know, after a few gunfights, you're probably going to lose. And the more sensible way of mitigating it, I think, is to move probably like a quarter of the way into a circle. So rather than playing right on the edge, move about a quarter of the way, and that way when the next circle appears, you'll be able to reach it on foot without attracting too much attention by using your vehicle. You may well have heard earlier where I was talking about the D23E strategy. Excuse me. And the idea of that is that you use a vehicle really to the third circle, and then you play the edge, which is kind of what I do in almost every game. With Vikendi, though, where it is significantly different to the other maps, is the speed at which the blue comes in the final circles after like circle 3, after about phase 3. And you'll notice that the circle does come in incredibly slowly. And this changes how you move from one position to the other. Because, again, in Vikendi as well, you do have these open areas, you know, with snow or open ground and trees, where you can be very exposed. And if you move too early, you will put yourself at a disadvantage. Here we go. This is where I think I start thinking about changing over to that barrel. Yeah, I think I'll leave it, but then I go back to it and I change the 4.16 for the barrel because of my very poor 5.56 ammunition situation. What was I saying? Yeah, so the fact that the blue... I mean, if you look at the mini-map in the bottom right corner of the screen now, you'll see that it is coming in incredibly slowly to blue. So what you need to be doing is really bearing in mind is that when you're going to be making your move from one circle to the next, and that circle isn't too far away, you can really surf that blue in. You don't have to try and get ahead of the blue because you're scared it's going to catch up with you and you're going to get caught in the blue and you're going to die to the play zone, which is always very embarrassing and very frustrating, especially after you've already spent 20 minutes running around a game. Because I know when Vikendi dropped like last night, and when it came out on the PTS, a month ago, I died lots and lots of times where I would. The circle would start coming in. I would think, well, I've got to go, and I'd be running forward to the next safe zone, and I'd be behind a rock or I'd lie down or something like that, and I'd be thinking, wait a minute, the blue's miles away. Where's the blue? And then I would get attacked by somebody who'd seen me running across, who was looking around, not concentrating on trying to stay ahead of the blue, because that's what you want. You want to be in a situation often where you're moving forward from one position to another, and the people around you who are doing that are being distracted because they're worried about the blue as well, so they're moving forward, so you're not going to run into any campers or people like that. Now, what you'll see I'm doing now on the game is I'm moving around to an even quieter side of the circle. I'm getting right on the coast. And a big reason for this is often people don't go to the coast. And if they do go to the coast, it's generally because they did a long drop to start off with, and they'll have dropped at the coast, and then they will have made their way inland to carry on looting. So although, and this is the case in this particular situation, I think I find a couple of buildings that are open, lots of them aren't. They've already been, sorry, a few of them are closed, and then I find the ones that are open, so I know somebody has been here. Now, when that happens, I do kind of slow down a bit, and I do have a little bit of a look around, and I try and stay quiet because they could well be here. But chances are, generally, they'll have probably moved on, and because they want more loot. So they will have moved on, towards the middle of the island. But it does mean that I have to think about that and think, right, okay, there could be people ahead of me. And so what I do in this case again is I circle round in order to find somewhere where some of the doors aren't closed, and at that point I know that on the way towards the centre of the map, in the way towards the centre of the circle, probably I'm not going to run into anybody. Now I do run into somebody, and we have this little bit of a standoff, and he throws a grenade at me, and then we both go our separate ways. And I probably kill him later on, I think, or something like that. But anyway, that can happen. Now, so what I'm doing now is I've got the large mini-map up. Excuse me. Just taking a quick drink now, still recovering from a really bad cold and a cough. I'll look at the mini-map, and I've got the large mini-map up, which you get on the PlayStation by pressing and holding the touchpad in the centre of the screen, rather than tapping it, which brings up the whole island. What I'm looking for is where the centre of the circle is, and then I'm looking at the towns and the areas that are around me and the sounds of gunfire that I can hear. And then I'm thinking, right, where can I go? Which direction do I need to go in to avoid those major towns? Because people love, well, even buildings in the late game, they love hiding in them, and you can't see. With third-person aiming, someone can be inside a building, looking out and seeing everything, but you can't see them at all. But they can see you, so you have to be very careful near buildings in the late game. Where can I make my way into the final circles? Where I'm minimising my chances of running into people. And again, so it's the physical towns on the map, the buildings on the map, the cover that I see on the map, trying to move from cover to cover, and also the gunfire that I can hear. Supply drops as well. If you see a supply drop, generally people will have gone towards that supply drop, and so you'll have a concentration of players. Not too many, but you'll have a concentration of players there. And that's another example of a random thing that can come in that can really ruin your day, where you're making your way into the circle, nice and carefully, you've done everything right, and then lo and behold, 100 metres in front of you, a supply drop falls, which attracts 10 players, and you're like, oh, great. What am I going to do now? I've got to go round them, I've got to fight them, and that's that whole, going back to that idea of always playing to get into the top 10. So eventually you'll end up with a situation where the circle falls for you, where you're in a good position, where your enemies make mistakes, and you get the chicken dinner. And I really honestly believe that. Winning PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds especially solos on a regular basis, is about playing the numbers. It's about playing carefully, getting into those top 10 situations, and if you put yourself in enough top 10 situations, you'll win. No, you'll definitely win one. And I did a whole video on this, and I think that the number is, it's if you can get yourself into 7 top 10 situations in PUBG and solos, chances are, well, the odds go over 50% that you will win one of those 7 games. If you can get up, oh, here's this chap who's just, I think he just thrown a grenade in. There we go. He's ran there somewhere. So I'll wait for him a little bit, and then, but I think he's already run off because he can see that the blue's coming in, and I'm just being very careful there, just waiting for him to make a mistake. But if you then play, I think if you play 8 games, the chances of you having won one of those games then goes up to something like 60%. And again, I've done a whole video on playing the numbers. You do have to have some gun skill, obviously. You know, have to shoot at people and use meds and things like that. But I'm a big believer that play the numbers, get yourself into the top 10 regularly. Whereas if you're hot dropping all the time, that time when you hot drop into Pochinki or School or Picado, that could have been the time when, in the final circles, the circles all came to you, and you would have got an easy chicken dinner. But you haven't got that far because you decided to hot drop and you died in the casino. So I'm still looking out for this chap now, thinking, oh, where is he? Time to boost up. I've got quite a long way. Now this is a good example here. Now we're moving into the final stages. We've got 13 people left alive, including me. I've got the blues coming in 10 seconds, well 5 seconds, so I need to make my way to the blue. I've got a long way to go. I did see the other guy. He was over to my left, and I've heard gunfire around to my right. So I'm kind of going a bit out on a limb, sort of going this way, but I've boosted up, so I'm running faster than I normally would be. I'm zigzagging, I'm having a good look round. Can I see anybody? And as you can see, I don't have to worry about the blue at all. Getting a smoke grenade ready. Thinking, why can't I see the smoke grenades on my screen? Then realising I've got the mini-map set to large. I just got the smoke grenade out so that if I'm in a situation where I start taking fire and I've got no cover, I can just pop a smoke grenade. But look how slow that blue is. How far I've run, and the blue just hasn't caught up with me. Here's some gunfire over to my right, so I'm just wheeling left a little bit. Because as soon as you get into gunfights, although the blue does move slowly, the blue is on you straight away. Time compresses, and well, starts to go incredibly quickly. Time flies when you're in gunfights in PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. So you always really want to try and get safe before you start engaging. Now at this point, I'm thinking that the guy who threw the grenade at me earlier and I saw go off to my left is probably somewhere around these rocks, somewhere, maybe around the other side. And in fact, I think maybe somebody's on top of this rock, but I don't hear them. 10 people left, including myself now. Moving into the final circles. Blue's just going to come in and just going to wait here. See the next circle appear. I see it's pretty close. It's pretty close to me. Put my marker in the centre. That's a little habit I get into. So as soon as a circle appears, I put a little marker, my marker in the middle, so I know where I need to aim for. And it helps me also to think if I need to go left or right of the circle to get to what I consider to be the quieter side of the circle. Makes it very easy. Stops me getting lost. Just keeping an eye on the right side. Again, there's some guy who's trying to rotate round here. I've only got 3 times. I might hit him now. Let's have a look. Do I get him? Yeah, I get 1 hit on him, don't I? It's enough to put him off from coming this way. I have given away my position though. Now I think what happens is he spots a guy near me on top of the rock, because I'm thinking, right, the blue's going to be moving. So what I'll do is I'll yeah, see, he's firing at somebody else on the top of the. Oh, he might have been firing at me. Maybe just been trying to suppress me. So now I'm just thinking, right, I need to get safe now. Let's get towards the circle. is I decide to go round to the left and round the back of these houses. This is a bit of a Hobson choice. This one, it's a bit of a rock and a hard place, because I know generally at this point in the game, if there's some houses in the circle, people will be in or around them. But on the other hand, there's been loads of gunfire over to my right, and it's very open there. So I decide to go this side because it's the quieter side of the circle, further away from the flight path, closer to the. And here we go. I see this guy who doesn't see me, rather oddly. So I'm rocking the suppressed ump. Try and get a grenade kill here. I think he just kills somebody, maybe. Yeah, I think he just kills somebody. He hears my grenade. He runs out, doesn't see me again. There we go. The ump finishes him off. Blue's coming in. Again, at this point, I'm not dead sure if he, although I knew he was firing at somebody, I don't know if he killed them. So now I'm very wary that there could be people in these buildings around me. Just trying to stay quiet, just so I can hear any movement. At this point, also, you really want other people to kill each other. You know, you want them to make moves to see each other and to kill each other. So again, I don't want to go around to the right because that's where the gunfire was. I'll stick round to the left, and now I see that there's a dead body in front of me. See, in between the gap in the wall. Put my marker in. And we've got quite a long wait now to the next circle. We've got like 1 minute and 20 seconds. So now I'm just listening out, having a look round. Where is everybody else? There's me and 3 other players. It's solos, so people are going to be lying down, hiding behind rocks, hiding behind trees, generally not making a move. Again, I'm pretty sure that there'll probably be someone in this building to my right. But again, you've got to keep all your options open. There's a very wide space to my left. And again, I'm thinking at this point of the game, right, let's see if I think I'm looking for like a 4x scope or something of this guy. See if he's got one, which he does have, which I then put on my barrel. And he's got an extended mag. I'll take that. Take a little bit of ammo. Shouldn't really be looting at this late stage of the game, but I thought, what the hell? Couldn't see anybody around. And again, I know that on Vikendi the blue moves very, very slowly, so I don't want to make a break. I don't want to go to my right because I think people will be there. So what I'm thinking is go to my left down that little dip and work my way along that edge. Just boosting up at this particular time. I want to go to full boost. Right, the blue's going to be coming in, so just slowly move my way around. And then what happens now is a couple of players start shooting each other, which is great because it tells me where they are. Moving in, moving from rock to rock, going very, very slowly. Because again, I know that blue's coming in. There's no need to rush into the safe zone. Right, bang, somebody fires to my left. Right, what's going on? Right, so somebody's over there. I can't see them. Very nervous that someone's behind me. There we go. So that guy's run up to try and shoot him. The old suppressed amp finishes him off. And this guy runs across. And you see the power of a suppressor, see, because this guy doesn't know where I am. And he goes behind that rock. The power of the 7.6 weapons. So it's me versus one other guy now. So I immediately move to this rock here. And I'm thinking, okay, where is he? There's lots of rocks around. I know that the quadrant where those guys were, he's probably not going to be there, because they would have killed him. So he's going to be either over to my right or over to my left, or straight in front of me, somewhere there. And this is where we get into the kind of the final chess pieces of the game, where it's all about staying on your feet, jiggy-jagging around, so that if he's being a snake in the grass and looking around, you know, he'd be looking for that headshot to finish you off really quickly. And I'm also thinking at this stage, you can get into situations where the circle disappears. And so it's the person with the most health and the most boost, because remember, your boost heals you over time. So that if you're in a situation where the circle disappears, you want to be fully boosted. So that as you run towards each other, or if you don't run towards each other, and say you're on different levels of a building, you run to the middle of the circle, and as the circle disappears, you then take loads of damage, and the person who's got the most health wins. And generally, that's the person who's at full health and at full boost, because as they're taking damage, they're also healing as well. So very nervous now, starting to get to the PUBG sweats. Again, just jigging around, trying to move left and right to avoid the possibility of a headshot from a Kar 98 or an M24, or God forbid, an AWM. Just thinking, right, it could be behind those rocks, it could be snaking in the grass. But again, just being super patient. I've got no frags, I've just got a couple of grenades. If I had frags at this point, I may well lob a few. So it's coming over to this rock. So looking around now, I know now he can't be to my right, so I would have seen him. So he's got to be somewhere, probably over that dip, sort of where that tree is there, but further behind the rock, probably somewhere behind there. And the next stage of the game now is the fact that the next circle, it will disappear, and that will force us together. So that's what I'm kind of thinking now, looking at the clock, looking around. Is anybody snaking in the grass? Keeping an eye on my boost. I've got full health. Am I reloaded? I'm on auto. Yeah. Kind of already just don't want to make a mistake at this point. Just don't want to stay still. So now the circle will disappear in 30 seconds, so let's take a quick boost now. And then before the last circle sort of goes, I think I'll probably take another boost, just so I'm at full. So what's going to happen in a few seconds time is you'll see the blue will start to come in, and the other guy does break from in front of me. Ooh. So take my final energy drink. Right, we're at full boost now. Blue's going to come in, and then I see him run from behind the rock. There he comes. Right, start shooting. Stop shooting. Yeah, there we go. And then there's a chicken dinner on Vikendi. Hope that helps. Put your questions and comments down below. If you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon.